welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 60. I'm Adam.
I'm Patrick.
Andrew.
Before we get into our game of the week this week, as usual, we'd like to invite you over to our website, meeplesonmeeples.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Facebook page, Twitter account, Pinterest account
For the hot firefighters.
For the hot firefighters, yeah, there's bringing back something old.
Episode 2.
Yeah, come check us out on all those social media sites. You'll see all of our newest videos, some of our questions to you, the audience, regarding games you're playing, games we should be playing, all that sort of stuff.
The game of this week is Firefly. This is based on Joss Whedon's serial sci-fi that was out about 10 years ago. Survived about one season.
Yeah. Sure it was 20 years ago?
It was 10 years ago. Inside joke. But it has a huge fan base still. And this idea of this board game is to try to bring you into that world of Firefly where you're playing a transport ship trying to live the life in the verse. Now, the object of this game is you are a Firefly class starship, and everybody starts at the beginning of the game with a basic Firefly placard that gives you all the information you need. Down here are some additions you can make to your ship to make it stronger, faster, gives you more equipment to hold more slots or more cargo. You have cargo slots that you will fill up with fuel that you will need, or special items that you'll need to complete events or tasks. And also over here, your crew will go over here. Those are people you can hire. And of course, the whole story of the Firefly is to get money and stay flying. And so your jobs will be extended on this side of this. So this is your player mat. Everybody also begins with a captain. Now, each captain is unique, and each captain has a special ability that gives them benefits in the game. And each captain also has different little icons over here. Now, these icons are important because the tasks that you do in this game are dependent on that you're able to complete in this game are dependent on if you have the right icons to complete the task or not. And each captain has a few different icons which will benefit you or hinder you on depending on the task you want to make. Now, the rules of the game are fairly simple. They seem complex at first, and when I go through it very quickly, it may seem overwhelming, but when you get into it, it plays very, very quickly. On your turn, you can take one of 4 actions. First of all, there's move. And on move, you can do one of 2 things. Just kind of slide, which is 1 space, or full burn. To do a full burn, you use up one of the fuel tokens that you have, and you can move as far as your engine status tells you can fly. And everyone starts with 5.
With 5, yeah.
Everyone starts out kind of with the same set. If you fly more than 1 space, for every space that you fly beyond that, you have to pick up an alliance card if you're in the blue, and that tells you some possible things that you run into during your flight through the alliance space, which is controlled by the alliance and is kind of the secure sector.
The vast majority of them you'll keep moving, but every once in a while you'll get stopped by the alliance.
And boarded. And then when you go into the red, of course, that's called border space, and you pull a red card for every space that you go through more than 1 space through the border region. And really bad things can happen to you out there because there are the reavers who like to kill, eat, and maim you whenever possible. Now, the second thing that you can do is if you're on a planet, you can purchase goods, such as more items, more cargo, more fuel, which is very important. If you're on a named planet, such as Osiris, they have different stores that you can go and purchase things from. And you basically shuffle through this, and you get to pick 3 cards of the planet's name, and you can choose to purchase 2 of those that will either add to your abilities of your ship, or maybe crew, or something like that. Also, there's some of them that have a special name. For example, has a little symbol at the top. The named ones are the ones that you can buy things at. The names with a symbol are people who can give you special tasks. Now, that's kind of the goal of this game, is to complete tasks to make money to continue flying. Now, when you go to a planet that has a task, it tells you on the back of, this is a guy by the name of, I'm throwing things, I'm sorry, Anandul. And Anandul is in the Space Bazaar, and on the back of this, he has a task that you try to complete. And some tasks are pick up and drop off, which is you pick up in one spot and you drop it off at another spot and you get some money. And some tasks are kind of illegal. When you do an illegal task, you're misbehaving. And when you're misbehaving, each illegal task tells you to pull so many of these cards and complete the steps on this card. If you can't complete the step on the card, you fail that task and you can try again. If you complete the steps on the card, then you get the money. Usually misbehaving usually pays you a little bit more than transport does.
And those tasks correspond to the different icons on both your captain card and your crew member card.
Yeah. Both the
jobs,
and the misbehave, and has icons that you have to meet in order to complete them. If you can't, obviously, you can't do them. That's kind of the idea. Now, as you're going on, the whole run of the game is a scenario card. And the scenario card tells you basically when the game will end. There's usually 3 or 4 steps that you have to complete in order to win the game. Now, you can't just go through this scenario card and say, I win. Because each scenario card will require you to have so much money, or so many items, or so many tokens, or so many jobs to complete to go on to the next step. So the whole idea is to balance your crew, which jobs you take, and keeping your eye on where your goal is on the scenario card in order to win.
And how many scenarios are there in this?
I believe, oh my gosh, I think there are 7 to start off with, but there's already has an expansion that out there with more of these cards. There's a new expansion coming out that's more player versus player. This game, we'll get into this later, is not so much me versus you, but us trying to defeat the scenario before the other people do, so it's more of a run and gun. But there's a new expansion coming out that'll have more scenarios, and there's a whole bunch of player-based scenarios that have been created as well that you can download and add to that. So that's, again, it sounds confusing, but it runs pretty smoothly, and that's about all there is to that.
Well, let's talk about the components. First off, I saw Pat laid the board out, and I went, "What are we playing?"
It is kind of an ugly board.
It's plain.
Exactly. Oh, plain. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's plain. Yeah, there's nothing special about it. But when you look at it, and then the circles, and once you start playing, everything on the board makes sense. Everything has a particular
region.
And it works perfectly.
Yeah, you look at it, you think, wow, it's plain. You got some planets on it, but really, it's set up like kind of separate galaxies. You got the sun, the planets rotating around it, the galaxies kind of intersecting with each other. So as you get into it, it makes sense. But you first pulled it out, I'm like, it's an ugly board.
The board is not beautiful, but it is
functional.
It's functional. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. It does what it needs to do, and it's pretty good at. Once you get into it, you understand why they designed it that way. It could have looked a lot better. It could have been more flashy, but I think you would have lost a lot of the details that you need to play the game.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about the minis. Now, Gale Force 9, which has created this, is known for their minis. They're known for supporting other games with minis and additions. They did a good job. The Fireflies are pretty well detailed. The Reaver ship, it looks awesome. I wish I could fly this instead of my Firefly. And of course, the
Alliance.
The Alliance cruiser is huge, but in the movie or in the TV series also, it fits.
And one of the things, did you fix this as far as when we played it, when you move it around, the only problem we had is every once in a while the base would fall off, especially on the Alliance one. It wasn't maybe molded perfectly. But besides that, the miniatures in this are, there's not a lot of them, but they're very well detailed.
Die-cut dice. Yep. It has the Firefly in the 6th position, which is kind of snazzy.
One thing I like is the cards. There's a lot of cards in this game, and they all have their own separate art style on the back. Each of the planets, each of the cards used for moving around, the misbehaving cards, the backs of the cards for the captains, they all have their own art style, which I think it just shows the extra touch. They went the extra mile when they didn't have to.
And they used pictures from the show.
Yep.
And is there some of these from the movie too, or just from
the show? I think in the newer expansion, I believe they've added some from the movies. Too. The other thing I like about this is the cards are simple to read. Now, I've seen games that used pictures from the movies, for example, Battlestar Galactica, but the card design wasn't as clean and cut. This is clear. It tells you what his special abilities are, who he is, his symbols, how much the money down here in the corner after you complete a task or a job, you have to pay him. It's right there. That's almost how much you buy them for.
And then what they are, what class they are. If they're a mercenary, if they're a captain, if they're there's a medic, a bunch of different options there.
And also if it's an item card, they have a different color so that you know it's an item card. It's really well thought out.
And another one we don't have a lot of it out though. The money. I think Andrew and I both commented when we first saw it. It's very intricate. It looks like they did an art style like they're trying to prevent you from recreating it like real money.
Right. And it feels kind of like real money actually.
It's got a thicker quality to it.
Yeah, it's not Monopoly quality.
You mean Monopoly money that you rub and then it falls apart?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's different colors for the different denominations, different art styles
for the denomination. They really went into a lot of effort for the details.
Yeah, exactly. The player mats, I like them. The only thing it's kind of off-putting is there's not enough room. I mean, the crew, you can have 6 crew. They kind of just stack over on the side here. The jobs, they don't really stack well. I don't know how else they could really fixed it.
No.
On the other hand, but
you'd have to have a full-on.
It would have to be about 2 to 3 times the size it is
to put them on there. Yeah.
But it serves its purpose. It has places for, like you said, the cargo, the contraband, that type of stuff. Very clearly labeled. And then each ship, of course, is a different color with a different name. So that's kind of neat.
And it matches the color of your piece.
Exactly.
So it's good.
Anything else really though on components? I mean, they're good components.
They spent a lot of time on the components. The next thing that we go into is strategy. Now, this strategy changes dramatically based upon the scenario, and that we'll get into likes and dislikes about that a little bit later. Some scenarios require a lot of strategy. The first scenario that they suggest you start off with that scenario. Great scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
We'll get into likes and dislikes. I'm going to kind of bum it out here for a second. The second scenario we played was just a gunning for money, and it lost the feel. But it's
and that was the first scenario one of the other Meeples played, and so he had a completely. We played the first scenario and the second. We came in loving it. He played that second scenario, and he's like,
it's all about the scenario. But I have to say,
the score is a 2.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
the strategy on this. The one thing I will say, I'll start with my strategy: get a well-balanced team. Mm-hmm. One of the 4 tasks, or one of the 4 options you have during your turn, you only can take one forward. Remember, there's movement, purchase items, take a job, or work a job. Mm-hmm. And when you work a job, you have to have the right icons to fulfill a job. And you have to have more than that because during the job, one of your guys can die.
Yep.
And so for me, it was, I didn't get it the first game. I mean, I didn't understand that in the first game, and I got way behind because I did not have a lot of variety in my people that I hired, and that really hurt my strategy.
In most instances, I'm going to say it doesn't really matter the pilot you pick, but there is one pilot I think we discovered when we played this game that is a little one-sided. Is it Nandi? Is it?
Yeah, Nandi is.
She's the companion pilot. Her main power is that she can hire a crew at no cost, which is a huge advantage. You can go through basically every planet you land on with a name and just grab another crew member and throw them on. And one of the things you didn't, up to 6. And the one thing you didn't talk about is you can kick crew members off when you're at planets too. So she has the ability to just pick up the crew you need to finish a job, so you have all the right symbols, then kick them all off, go to the next planet, and pick up the more crew to do the same thing.
Right, but she has to do dirty deeds to get those.
Yeah, she may.
but you've seen the show, but it doesn't really play out in the game.
You don't have to spend any money though, and that is a big advantage because money. I mean, you look at some of the jobs and think, oh yeah, I can make that a few $1,000s really quick. Coming by money in this game is actually pretty difficult.
Yeah,
since you have to pay your crew. If you don't pay your crew, they become disgruntled.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay your crew twice, they leave your ship.
Yeah, they desert. So I'd say she's probably she really weighs in favor of the person that has her. She makes it kind of an uneven game, and we discovered that the first time we played through this. Besides that, though, the pilot doesn't matter so much. What I would go after in a strategy in this game, and I don't know if this is a strategy, don't get attached to your crew. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, you need to build a crew that's going to support your missions, but you have to
For that moment,
but you have to realize the next turn you might be kicking all those guys out into space and hiring somebody.
Or they might be ditching you.
Or they might be ditching you. Another player might buy them out from under you if they're disgruntled. That sort of thing. So if you want to win this game, you have to be willing to just ditch somebody from your crew to get the people that have the right symbols to complete the jobs you have.
If you want your crew to be the crew from the Firefly TV show, they're in here. It's not going to help you. You really have to have a varied crew.
But my main thing that I found that got me a few times was a lot of these, in the corner here it says legal or illegal. Well, if you have
it's moral or immoral.
No. On the mission card it says legal or illegal. If it's illegal and you're misbehaving and you have somebody on your crew that's moral, you can't use them.
Yeah, there's some that say you can't use them for certain crews.
When you're picking out missions to do, make sure that okay, I got these guys. And I don't grab the wrong one because I did it a couple times and I was like, "This is worthless."
I did the same thing. I had a crew of like all moral people, and all I had was illegal jobs or immoral jobs. I'm like, oh, great.
The one thing that I noticed you picked up on that we were way behind on is buying new engines. Mm-hmm. There's some engines that you don't have to spend gas to do a full burn. You don't have to use a fuel token.
The bad part about that
was amazing.
with that particular engine, you can only move 4 instead of some of them you can move 6.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, I sacrificed those few extra moves, and I literally got everywhere a lot quicker, and I didn't have to worry about fuel. I didn't have to spend my money to buy more fuel.
For an example, the first game, I was the last person to get a new engine, and it was terrible because I needed to get from this corner of the board to that corner of the board, and I ran out of fuel. So I was moving one space at a time. It was the slowest. I mean, I was in the lead, and it was basically a crawl to beat everybody in the corner. It was terrible.
So, but the strategy is find out. You make sure you pay attention to your scenario. Make sure you're picking up the right jobs for your scenario, and keep track of your crew.
Don't get attached.
And don't worry about the names. It's just a useless. At a certain point, it becomes a useless factor. Make sure that you're using them.
All
right.
that matters is your pilot. That's it.
That's right. That's the name that you need.
But yeah, that about it for strategy for you guys?
Yeah.
All right. So how about likes and dislikes on this one?
Okay, I will start off likes, and maybe you guys will agree with me or not. It's just a very simple one. A lot of people out there will say it's just a transport game, and I'll admit to that. This is in the first version they have a new version or a new addition coming out, which is more player versus player. You can screw each other over, but this is a pick up and transport game. People say, well, it's too long for that. Well, my argument to you is, this is Firefly. If you like Firefly, if you understand the storyline of Firefly, if you've seen, this is a fantastic game. I liked it because I felt like I was in the Firefly universe. Yes, it is a pick up and transport game, but it kept to the real theme.
If you like Firefly, this is your pick up and transport game.
Yeah, this is perfect theme for
it. But there's so many different things that play into it versus I get over here, I pick this up, now I have to get over here. I mean, from here to here.
There you go.
Oh, see, the base falls. But, there's so many different things that can happen to you from here to here to back over here to over here. And it's just so much more in depth.
Along with just scenario.
Yeah, than just picking something up and then bringing it over here and then you collect money. And then, it just really has more story behind it and everything.
And part of what it comes down to is it's the building the crew part of it, because you have to get the money to be able to hire people to build your crew to beat the jobs or complete the jobs you have. So you really become invested to beat the scenario. Exactly. So you become invested in, all right, I got to do these jobs because I need to go over there, I need to hire somebody from that planet, and then go over there and get a job from that planet. Like you feel like you're building a crew, like in Firefly, to do what they did in the show, what they did in the movie.
You're not just moving stuff; you're building.
Yeah.
So thematically, I really appreciate it. I love the fact that it kept to the theme.
A couple of dislikes I have. One is, and we kind of hit on this already, some of the scenarios just they're flat. They're a complete miss. The scenarios where you have to, it's steps and you have to actually do stuff. Like the first one we played,
amazing,
really, really good. But then when you get to the scenario, first to make 15,000 credits. Oh,
it came.
Then it feels kind of like a pick up and transport.
It does exactly
because you don't have roles.
If you pick the wrong, and that's one thing that I'm sure they're coming out with more.
Right.
But if you don't play the right scenario, if you don't look for a right scenario. That one that was, and I thought, hey, this would be a great one to get our other Meeple and Brian in because it was a fast one. Pick up 15,000. Unfortunately, it was faster, but the theme was flat.
No, it was not faster.
It was actually, I think it took longer.
You think it took longer? I didn't pay attention.
It took forever. Because,
it was not as invested.
It's hard to get money.
Yeah, you don't just come, this is a 2,000, and that's the biggest bill, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I think I had one of these. You don't come by them very often.
It was very flat.
My other downside, and it's kind of a combination, and I think this is going to be solved, like you said, in the expansion. Not a lot of player versus player.
Except to hire crew that are disgruntled.
Yeah, except stealing crew if they're disgruntled from each other. So you kind of feel like you're playing alone at times. It's not really a problem in this game, I don't think, but I can see how some people would not like that because you don't have that type of interaction. The other thing is the Alliance and the Reapers are wholly underutilized.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think that's being fixed on the expansion, but you're right, it is underutilized in the fact that they could have done so much more with the Reavers and the Alliance Cruiser. I agree.
You move them around one space at a time. They rarely come into play.
If you run into them, they board you, and they can hose you there, but it's really not that.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Player interaction, a Firefly is literally a transport vehicle, so it's not like you have
guns or shooting them down.
And things like that. Yes, more player interaction would be great. Like, you're both over here, and now
let me board your ship.
Something happens, or I'm I get to steal your engine because my mechanic's
or you can
over
get,
here.
you can cause their engine to malfunction, something like that.
Something to just give a little more interaction.
Firefly isn't the type of game where you'd be like running and shooting each other. Like
No.
that just doesn't make sense with the theme. But some type of interaction.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Well, in the show, I know they sabotage or
Exactly. You hose them over a little bit.
Right,
and
right.
and I agree with that. Some people have said, oh, they should be running and shooting. That's not the Firefly theme.
No,
that doesn't fit. Another I like the pieces other than
definitely
that
the alliance falling off.
other than the alliance falling off. But for me, the thing that sells this is my biggest is it does have the theme of Firefly. I think it sells it very well.
Yeah, I'd agree completely. Anything else from you guys on likes and dislikes? I mean,
I would like someone to start a Kickstarter to bring the show back.
I think
Joss Whedon.
I think he's a little busy right now.
Yeah, he's doing plenty. Nathan Fillion, maybe. Get in on that.
All right, that's our likes and dislikes then. All right, for our reviews then, we do a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing, go out and buy it, 1 being don't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole, Manhattan Project, 5 being just it was all right.
I still have that steaming pot.
I don't know why you do. Anyways, I'm going to kick this off and go the opposite direction, just to put my review out there. I think it's probably pretty clear. I like this game a lot. It's got, kind of beat a dead horse, a great theme. The components are nice. The art style was really good. Like I said, the board looks kind of but it's once you play it, you realize it's very functional. The only thing that I could see people complaining about, and like I said, I don't think I necessarily have a problem with this, is the player interaction part. I think there needs to be some type of player interaction, not the run and gun type stuff, but something out there, and hopefully the expansion will fix that. All that being said, I'm going to give this game, I'm going to go an 8.5 on it. It's just, I had a lot of fun, even with the one bad scenario we played. That first scenario and our other playthroughs on this have just been so solid on it. I really, really like it. One thing I've seen people complain about is that it's there's way too much luck involved with the dice. I don't think that matters if you build your crew up well, and that's the one thing. If you build your crew up well and you pay attention to the symbols you need, you can really make this dice worthless by the end of the game, where you basically don't even need it. So you play your strategy right, you get into the theme of the game, you don't become too attached to your crew. It's just a fun game, and it is a little long. It can be between 2 to 3 hours, depending on the scenario, but it doesn't seem like that. It's not one of those that drags on.
I'm going to give it, I hate doing halves. I try not to, but I actually will give this about an 8.5 as well. I'm going to agree with you. A couple of things to add on to it. It would be a 9 if the scenarios were all a little bit more dead on and hit a little bit better. It would have been a lot higher. Some people out there have complained about the rule book and saying that it was less than clear. I didn't really have that feeling. We didn't have that feeling going through the game. We thought it was pretty clear. There's some areas that people said were a little bit less than specific. I don't think it really was. It played out, when I looked at the FAQ, it played out exactly how...
I can't even think of when we went back to the rule book.
Once I looked at the FAQ, it was like, that's how I would have played it in the first place. I think it was clear, but some people felt it was less than clear, so I will admit to that. If it is less than clear, I do understand some of the places that you might have thought that, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. The part about luck, this is Firefly. If you've ever watched an episode on Firefly, you notice that they have everything planned out, and all of a sudden, at the last second, they get hosed. It's the luck of the verse, and I think the dice component is necessary in this type of game to get the feel of Firefly. And for those people who say, "Oh, I don't like Firefly because it was relied on the dice too much," then if you watch the episodes, you get. I sat down, I read those, I sat down and watched a couple of episodes, and I'm like, no, this dice is important to get the feel of the game. Other than that, I think again, the theme, for me, it's all about theme in this game, and it hits it. It would have been a 9 if it had scenarios that are more specifically dead on. That one scenario kind of brought it down to an 8.5.
All right, now it's all about me.
It usually is. Being sexy.
Ooh. I'm gonna give it an 8. Just because a couple things, like we've said a couple times.
Can't be a hater.
I don't think it's a hater.
The scenarios, things that are probably fixed in the expansion, and then maybe we'll review the expansion too. A few things like pieces don't stick all the time. Other than that, cards are great. The board, like I said, first time I looked at it, I went, oh great, and now I love it. it's still basic. It's not flashy, which is good because too much clutter, and we've had boards with too much clutter, and you just don't want to play because it's
Zepocalypse.
It's an eyesore. That's why we all wear glasses. So yeah, I'm just gonna give it a solid 8.
Well, there you have it. Firefly the game. If you like Firefly, no brainer. Go out and get it. If you don't like Firefly and you're looking for a transport game, this is a great game. A little bit long, but know what you're getting yourself into. Tune in next time. We'll have another episode.